Welcome everyone to Backstage this week. I have a special guest for you. This is an intense topic. We are about to get into some real talk. So if you can't hang, you can go ahead and just skip to the next episode. But if you can hang, you're in for a really hopeful episode this week. I'm bringing on Alan Orcutt, and we are going to talk about alcoholism. We are going to talk about addiction, the effects of it in the person addicted, and the effects of it on those who love that one. And he has a very real, raw, and at the end of it all, hopeful story for anyone who is listening, who might be addicted, who might be struggling with alcoholism, or who loves someone who is. So join me as I chat with my new friend, the amazing Alan Orcutt, who is 3+ years sober. I have Alan Orcutt here with me, and we are going to be talking all things alcohol related, alcoholism, addiction, different things. He is going to tell his really powerful story. But first of all, Alan, tell me about Hunter and Mitchell and what you're doing currently, and then we'll go way back.
Perfect. So Hunter is my wife, Mitchell's my daughter, and Mitchell is 4. Hunter and I have been married for about a little over 7 years. Right now, we are all about the wedding industry. My wife is a wedding and event planner. She started her business 3 years ago.
Oh, how cool.
And we've recently launched 2 other businesses to provide staffing for weddings and events, and then to provide florals as well. So I quit my job last year, and we are full-time family business.
Full-time family wedding business.
Oh, yeah. We are all... I mean, we've seen God do some cool things in our marriage, and so it kind of fits that we work with other couples and marriages and weddings.
Tell me a little bit about your background, and then I want to get to the crux of the story later, and I'm just really anxious to hear just your experiences, things you have to say. But tell me about, like, where did you grow up? Tell me parents, siblings, Christian, non-Christian.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in probably the most stereotypical Christian home possible,
Same.
south of Dallas. Yeah, so you know all about it.
Yep.
South of Dallas, in church every week, every time it was open. My parents, great parents, love Jesus, but probably dealt with a lot of the same things that a lot of Christian parents do, in the sense that really protective. We didn't really talk about much as far as our issues or our struggles, and really felt, the attempt to always look the part, always look like you have it together, the church family. And so I think really for me, that's kind of where any struggle in my life started, was not having an outlet for it or not having a place to talk about it. But we grew up in south of Dallas. I grew up in church. Felt the call to be in ministry and to be a pastor when I was young. I basically I call myself a church rat. So I wasn't always at the gym. I was always at the church and serving with youth or kids or whatever needed to be done.
You really loved God at a young age, you'd say.
Absolutely.
Like it was really genuine. It wasn't just performance for you. It was like a real thing inside of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Love Jesus. And I think too, from a younger age, really understood, what a relationship with Jesus meant and who he was.
Yeah.
But then dealing with the need to perform and the need to be perceived as excellent. I did Bible quiz growing up. And so basically in the church we were at, you memorize entire books of the Bible, you go to competitions and there's tournaments and you compete over it. And so just a weird relationship with knowing and loving Jesus, but also, competing and memorizing, I guess, for
going through some motions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How many, side note, how many books of the Bible did you memorize?
Let's see. I memorized John.
The book of John?
The book of John, what? Matthew, Romans, Hebrews.
Shut up.
1st and 2nd Peter.
Shut up.
Acts.
You're kidding me.
No. James.
No way.
Yeah, I would stand up.
What would they?
Once a year and quote a chapter in service.
What?
Yeah.
Could you do it on a whim? If they said like James chapter 3, could you just pull it out?
Yeah, so that's part of the competition side of things. Was they would ask questions like,
no.
how many, quote the parenthetical statements in, the Gospel of John, or how,
What?
give the exclamation statements in John chapter 4, or, different things like that. And then even whenever I would stand up and quote in service, after I quoted a chapter, they would have someone walk around the service with a mic and tell them, pick any verse in the book of John, pick any verse in the book of Romans, and they would throw out a reference and then I would quote it.
Oh my goodness. I've heard of Bible quiz. Was it Assembly of God?
Yes.
Okay, because my husband's AG background.
Yeah.
We pastor a non-denominational church, but yeah, so I think he was a part of some of those things too. Like what's the kids club too? Like the Royal
Rangers.
Raccoons the Royal Rangers.
Yeah, Raccoons is better, but
we'll get back on track. That's amazing. So this is how you grew up though. You grew up really loving God, loving Jesus, but also like performing and memorizing and going through the motions. And your parents, were they in ministry, or were they just
normal people? Weren't in ministry, just love Jesus.
Yeah, that's similar to mine.
Wanted their kids to love Jesus.
Yeah, okay, that's very similar to me as well. Okay, so you grew up this way, and then did you meet Hunter young?
We did. I mean, I met her in high school, but she's from Arkansas. I'm from Dallas, and so her siblings were in Dallas, obviously before her, for college, and so they were my leaders when I was in youth group, and so. We had met or knew who we were.
Our girl Miss Shaley, she was one of your leaders?
Absolutely, yeah.
Shout out to Miss Shaley. We're having you on soon, Miss Shaley. Oh, that's
so she was a leader. Her brother Trey, I played, we did intramural sports and like competitive football league, stuff like that. And so I knew her siblings really before I knew her.
Okay.
And then she moved here to start school.
Uh-huh.
And I took her out the first day she moved here. I had to lock it down as fast as possible and basically dated ever since.
Oh, wow. And was alcohol a part of your life at all at this point?
So alcohol became a part of my life in college.
Okay.
With the background, that I had, the 3 fastest ways to go to hell were to cuss, get tattoos, and drink, And so
for sure,
I didn't do any of those things, but now, I've got tattoos and obviously I'm an alcoholic. And so,
right.
I've checked those off my list. Yeah, I got two of the 3 down. Alcohol became part of my life in college. I was in Bible school studying to, be in ministry, be a pastor. And I was waiting tables at a restaurant. I guess I was a good waiter. And so they promoted me to a bartender pretty quickly. I think I was 19. I wasn't even old enough to drink legally, but I could serve it. And so they promoted me to a bartender. And one night, a bartender that I was working with took me around a corner, handed me a kid's cup, and just told me to drink it. And so didn't really question it, just kind of, chugged it. And that was the first time I tasted alcohol and really, realized, hey, this actually tasted, really good. And at that point, it kind of became something that I, just tested, kind of felt out and thought through and started to explore.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure I love that you're just like, it tasted really good. It makes us feel good.
Absolutely.
My husband always says, we were in youth ministry before we became lead pastors. And we're always like, youth pastors don't do any service to kids being like, sex is bad. Right?
No, yeah. Sex is awesome.
Yeah. Like alcohol, it's going to make you feel good. Things with it's just, sometimes I think as pastors, we can just be like, oh, it's going to be horrible. It's horrible. No. Like, let's be real here. It's nice, right? It's nice.
Right.
It's going to make you feel better for a quick minute.
Absolutely.
So I love that you're point. Just like, that's the point. That's the point. Yeah, you can go off on that one later. That is the whole point. So it just started slowly. Were you with Hunter? Were you married at the time? Or are you single?
No, so we weren't dating or anything when I first
Okay,
started
so
drinking
it got
alcohol.
introduced before you got in with her.
Yeah, and at that point, it was just I couldn't buy alcohol. I couldn't go get
Right.
alcohol, and even more so, and where it became dangerous for me was nobody could know that I
Mm,
was drinking at work while I was bartending, or that I liked it, or any of that, because I
yeah.
leave I leave work and I go back to Bible college and stay in the
Yeah.
dorms. So it
Right.
really was something at that point that I would do a few times a week when I was at a shift or whatever, and we would sneak drinks while we were working.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm guessing you were raised in a family that was opposed to alcohol?
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
And at this point, you're just being a kid testing it out. I'm guessing you weren't like heavy in addiction.
No, yeah, I was
Is
just
that
testing
right?
it out
Yeah.
and enjoyed it, and didn't really think about it much, but definitely, you know, was all for having a drink whenever I was at
Yeah.
work and the opportunity came.
Yeah. Yeah. And was it always just alcohol, or were there like pills ever introduced, or
No, it was alcohol. I think I was scared of everything else. I don't know if that makes sense
no,
now,
it
but
does. Yeah. Yeah.
it was just alcohol, and obviously it progressed, as I drank more and it became more casual for me. But
Hmm.
um, after college, I started being able to buy stuff, and so I would have things at home. And then as Hunter and I got engaged and married, we would have drinks at dinner, or if we
Sure.
knew we weren't going to see people places, because again, I'm in the
Ministry.
church, I'm working at
Yeah.
a church, like,
Hmm.
you know, people can't know or see us doing this. And so it was always in secret, but
Hmm.
it didn't get serious, for a while.
Yeah. So Hunter didn't have a problem with it. There was nothing to be concerned about in the beginning.
No, and I don't think she thought any concern of me either. But
Yeah.
the signs that you look back now we would go to dinner and she would order a drink, I would order a drink, and she wouldn't even finish hers.
Oh
And
yeah.
I've had
Hmm.
two, and I'm like, what in the world are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
I'll finish that.
Yeah.
Don't leave
Yeah.
alcohol on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
table, and
Uh-huh.
um, playing it off like, oh, we paid for that or whatever. But for
Yeah.
me, when I taste it, when I have a drink, when I start, I don't want to stop. And
Hmm.
for a lot of people, it's come and go. It doesn't matter if I have it. It doesn't matter if I don't. And it's
Hmm.
not that way for me.
Yeah. Was there a time um in your journey where the switch got flipped for you, or do you feel like it was just a constant path towards more, more, more?
I
Does that
think it
make
was a
sense?
constant path towards
Yeah.
it, but there's
Okay.
definitely a moment or a season where it wasn't just something that I enjoyed the taste and the feeling of, but it
Hmm.
was what I needed to feel like I could make it through the day, or that I could cope with what was going on in life. Or there's definitely a season where it became like it took control.
Yeah. Was there things going on? Like, can you explain the inner self and what was going on in your own mind and heart when that season came? Did something kind of trigger it, or was it just a slow play there?
I think it was more of a slow play, and that's
Mm-hmm.
probably why it's so dangerous. Is because
Mm,
it's fun, and like it's something I'm not supposed to be doing, or people
mm-hmm.
don't know, and it all the things about alcohol that are enjoyable. And so um, it's dangerous because slowly it just takes over. And
Mm-hmm.
um, for me, I thought, this is fun, this isn't bad like everybody thought. It's kind of my thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
my way to relax. It's my way to enjoy myself. It's my way to
Yeah.
kind of take the edge off. And
Yeah.
before you know it, it was the only thing that would take the edge off. And
Mm,
really, I think this is probably something else. We can get into this, but um, I never learned how to cope or deal with stress or failure or
mm,
fear in a healthy way.
yeah.
And so then when I have those things, not as like a high schooler or a teenager, but as an adult, and those are real life concerns,
Yeah.
I didn't know how else to handle that.
Yeah. It's not just about the girl that doesn't like you back. Now it's mortgages and kids and
Absolutely.
marriage and yeah. And you're going into ministry.
Absolutely.
That's huge. Yeah. I think there was just something about those times that they were just that generation was so good at just getting through.
Yeah.
And just doing the work that some of us just didn't learn along the way. I can kind of relate with that.
Yeah, I have incredible parents. I'm very thankful for the way I was raised and for my parents. An incredible relationship with them today. But I think exactly what you said. Previously there was this idea and this thought of put your head down, get it done. We'll get through it, and we're not going to talk about it until it's better.
Yep.
And then on the other side of it, I think the church, where the church has grown, is we're more open and okay with talking about these things. We want these things to be public, and there's no judgment or condemnation for them. But I felt like I'm sure a lot of people have and still do. I can't talk about this. People can't know. I'll get fired. I'll get kicked out. I'll be, looked down upon, and really like there's no outlet or no place for help.
Right. And of course, you're the only one who struggles with it.
Yeah, definitely.
The lie of just, everybody else is just killing life and I'm the only one. So keep it hidden. Yeah. Oh man. So, okay. Talk to me about so you felt like it was a coping mechanism. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so correct anything I say that isn't accurate, but without knowing how to deal with real life stress or we'll call it adult stress, that's where you turned.
Yeah, it 100% was a coping mechanism for me. I really, where it got, I think, serious was I changed jobs. I had working at a church in Oklahoma City, left and took a position at a church in Tulsa. And we felt like it was the right move, what God asked us to do. But I took probably a 50% pay cut. I was valeting to make extra money. Hunter was working full time. And in the middle of all of that, we get pregnant, and we were not trying to. Hunter always laughs at me because I didn't get pregnant. She got pregnant. Men
are always like, we had a baby. We're like, no, y'all didn't have a baby.
Right. So in the midst of all that, everything's going on. I feel like I can't keep up at work. I'm there early. I'm there late. I leave straight from the church to go and valet because I'm not making money at the church.
And you're young, right? I mean, you're in your 20s.
24, 25.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And then Hunter gets pregnant. And so I just go into a complete panic of what are we going to do? How are we going to make it? Is this really what it's going to be like? And then, the lies of Satan that say, you're not a good husband. You're not a good, you're not good at your job. You can't provide for your family. How are you going to raise a kid? All those things. And so my way of dealing with that was just drinking more and more and more. And Hunter at this point, because she is pregnant, isn't drinking at all. And so
stopped, right.
I think as it got worse for me, she began to see things she hadn't before and things that weren't a big deal or things she didn't notice. She actually started to because it had picked up for me and stopped for her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So talk about that journey into, you would say, alcoholism. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So talk that journey where you start and how she started identifying. Did she confront you about anything? Were there conversations? Was it swept under the rug? Did
Yeah, I think she started to notice, he's having more than I thought, or he's acted different earlier, or man, we're going through a lot of this. But then where it really became something we talked about and she brought up is on my day off Friday, she's working, she would come home at 4 or whatever, and I'm passed out on the couch, or I'm passed out on the floor in the bedroom, or it became something that I couldn't hide because,
you were literally passing out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So at that point, there was conversations with us, and we had told ourselves and told each other multiple times, okay, that's it. You're right. This is getting to be a problem. We need to take a break from this. We're going to stop drinking. We're about to have a baby, all of those things.
Yep.
But um, I would just find ways to hide it. I would find ways to get more. I would lie about it and try to cover it up, and I guess be more careful. So that way I wasn't passed out, but I was still able to drink and cope. And until basically, she is really close to having Mitchell, and I mean, maybe 38 weeks or something. And she comes home from work one day. I'm passed out. It had been a while since that had happened. And she realized, man, if there was something going on, if I needed to get to the hospital or whatever, Alan would be unable to take me.
Oh,
and so
man.
At that point, that was the first time she'd had a conversation with the pastors that I was working for, my boss
Okay, so
over
she
me.
went to them. She went to them.
Yeah, she went to them. They were close friends, and like a big brother mentor to me. And so
they were safe.
That conversation, they were safe, and we loved them and cared about them. And so she felt like, this is what I need to do. I need to talk to someone and tell them.
Did you know she was doing that?
No.
Yeah.
And
was that upsetting?
That's always tough. That's always tough. Definitely upsetting, but I at that point I was still at a place of, I'm about to have a baby. Things haven't really gotten bad in my mind, and I really did want help, but I didn't want to give up control or the option to.
Yeah.
And so we had that conversation. We had already made the decision actually to leave that church, and we were moving back to Dallas because we were having Mitchell. Both of our families were here, and so it wasn't really a risk of I'm losing my job or I'm going to get fired, but it was just you need help. We need to get this together. We need to figure this out. We can't keep going this way. And
so you genuinely were like on board with her, like, yes, let's move back to Dallas. Let's just get rid of this thing. No worries.
Yeah, let's move back to Dallas. We'll stop drinking. We'll have Mitchell. And then Mitchell gets a little older. We get our feet under us. We'll start drinking again. And it's not a big deal. Like it was still this thing that I didn't want to give up.
So tell me what happens next in the story.
So we moved back to Dallas, and no job in sight, or like we didn't have like we have an offer, we're going to go work here. It's like, we're just going to move and believe and pray and interview and all that stuff. And so we move in with her parents, and her dad has been traveling and preaching for 30 something years. And so for sure she thought, okay, well, this is a safe spot where Alan's not going to drink here. There's no way that, he's going to bring alcohol and my dad would kill him, basically.
Yeah.
So we move in where I'm looking for jobs and not finding anything. So I start waiting tables at Cheesecake Factory. I had done that in college, and still at this point now, hiding it, finding ways to get it. I'm making tips, so I have cash.
So you're back on the wagon. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But she didn't know.
And it's all
Hunter didn't know.
I think she deep down she knew, but she had no way to prove it or to confirm it. And so she just went along with me lying and saying, no, I haven't had anything today, or no, I'm not drinking, or yeah, I'm doing good, or whatever. She didn't really have any proof to show that. And so I am doing the same thing I was doing, back to hiding, drinking, and, working, and all the internal feelings are still there of, you have a baby now, you're waiting tables. What are you doing? You're living at your in-laws. Just really feeling like I'm no good at anything, but still fighting this need to be perceived as good, and that I have it together, and that
which goes
we're doing great, and way back.
Yep.
And eventually it comes to a point living in her parents' house where I started drinking during the day. I was off, and she comes home to me passed out in her parents' media room. And this was really the first where she'd been able to realize and say, like, okay, there's no denying it. There's no lying. There's no getting out of this one. You've been drinking, obviously, a lot. And when I woke up, I found out that she had called my parents and told them what had happened, what I was doing, and basically everything leading up to this point. And that was the first time that they knew, and that there had been a conversation with them that I had ever even had a drink of alcohol, much less that I was, getting drunk and passing out.
Yeah.
So they come, Hunter's packed up all my stuff and basically kicks me out of the house and says, I'm not doing this anymore. I've got to think about myself. I've got to think about Mitchell.
Is she still, Mitchell's not here yet? She's still pregnant?
No, she is here.
Mitchell's here.
A couple months old. Yeah,
okay.
She's 3 or 4 months old.
Oh, the stress levels, y'all. This is a lot.
Yeah, Hunter, at this point, Hunter's in, like, I've got to do what's best for me. I've got to do what's best for my daughter. And also what's best for me, even though it doesn't feel like that to me.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. I'm angry. I can't believe you're doing this. I'm not going to see my daughter. I'm not going to see you. You told my parents.
You told on me.
And then
twice now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then moving into my parents with all of those emotions and feelings on top of the insecurity and the feelings of, worthlessness, I'm just going deeper and deeper and deeper into alcoholism. I'm drinking more and more and more.
Like what did that look like? Like wake up and drink?
Yeah. So it looked like go to work, get something on the way home from the gas station, from the liquor store, whatever, and basically start drinking until I fell asleep, wake up and
pass out.
And if I needed something to kind of be alert and awake for the day, then I would have something in the morning and either go to work or do whatever I needed to do that day.
Gotcha. So you're living with your parents. The internal struggle is just getting worse and worse. But
now it's worse because you're not with your wife and daughter living with your in-laws. Now you're kicked out of the house. You're living with your parents again. Yes. And so it was just, you would think this was the worst, honestly, as I'm talking about it now, but it gets so much worse.
Okay. Where does it go from here then? Well, side note, props to your wife, because I don't know. You said her dad's a traveling pastor, or he travels and preaches, and is that right? That's her background.
He's full on revival. Yeah. Every week.
Okay.
Sunday through Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
On the road.
Yeah. So I would imagine she doesn't have a lot of experience with alcoholism, and so no.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in. She does.
No, please do. Please do. Yeah.
She does. And I think just looking back at it and realizing what I put her through and everybody else through, and just the selfishness of everything is tough, because her biological dad is an alcoholic. And whenever she was born and her mom and her biological dad were together, her mom basically told him, it's us or alcohol. And he chose alcohol in so many words or in so many actions. Yeah. And so, they have a relationship today. They talk and it's a, decent relationship, but she has lived through that. Even though she was 1 or 2 years old, she carries that and has felt that.
She's felt the weight of what that can do to a family. Yep.
Absolutely. And so, just the pain of now living through that with your husband, who you thought, we're going to be in ministry, he's going to be a pastor, I'm not going to deal with this.
Right.
But living through it. Exactly.
So she was 2 when her bio dad left them. Is that right?
Yeah. So, either 2 or a little before, somewhere in that range. Yeah. Because her mom remarried her dad today, Michelle's dad, and he actually adopted Hunter. And so she's never felt, or it's never been this thing of like, oh, you're not my child or anything. Right. We're not really sisters or family. You would never know. Yeah. Unless they told you.
Oh, yeah. I had no idea. I didn't know that either. So for her though, fast forwarding, like from that part of her life as a child to now with you, and she's calling for help. She talked to your friends, then she talked to your parents, and then she said, you've got to go. And I love what you said, because she did have to do it as moms. I'm a mom, we do it for the kids.
Yeah.
We do it for the kids. But she did it for you too. And I have friends that, are alcoholics, and I have friends that love people who are alcoholics. And I have loved alcoholics in my life. And I've heard a lot, and you can probably speak to this better than I can, but one of the ways to love them is to back away from the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter saved me, and she's really saved our relationship, because
Wow.
what she did was the most difficult thing to do, of saying, this may not work out. Our relationship, you as my husband, you as the invested father of our child, may not work out if I do this, but life will be better because, either you get help and heal, or you don't, but I'm not living in this hell, basically. And so I think, her doing that was probably the hardest thing that she's ever had to do, but
I can't
it
imagine.
is what
And she
saved
still
us.
has pregnancy hormones washing through. It
Right.
takes us a good while after giving birth to even get the hormones out. I cannot imagine what she was going through at the time. And for her to just have the clarity of mind to be like, I love him, I love our daughter, and I love myself, and this is what needs to happen. I'm sending you home, Alan.
Yeah.
That's a tough call to make.
Yeah. And it's not always, it's not always the popular thing.
Right.
Even in church, to say, we'll go, stay together. God will heal him.
Yeah.
God will heal y'all. God will restore it.
Yep.
Why would you kick him out? Why would you separate?
Yep.
It's not a popular or easy decision. And we lived apart for, over a year.
Did you really? Okay, so continue on with the story. This is just because you said it gets worse.
Yes. I can laugh now.
Yeah. I know. As I laugh with you, I'm like, I shouldn't be laughing, but I know you're on this podcast for a reason, so I know there's really good days coming.
There are.
But this is super intense and traumatic. I can't imagine in the moment. Yeah, for both of you.
Yeah, I'm living with my parents and just getting deeper and deeper into my addiction, into alcoholism, drinking every day as much as I can, and still functioning. I'm still working. I'm still having to make money, pay bills, buy diapers, all those things. And so one day my parents, they were selling, or they were buying a house, and they were moving in. And since I'm waiting tables, my schedule is really, flexible. I'm off some days. I'm off during the day. And so they're at work, and they basically tasked me with, hey, start moving our stuff over to our house from where we're living now. And so I'm making trips doing that. It's boring. It's not fun to move boxes and move furniture. And so I think, hey, I'll just drink this. Drinking always makes things more enjoyable. And so I'm drinking, I'm moving back and forth, making trips across town. And towards the end of the day, late afternoon, I'm trying to cross a busy intersection. I have no depth perception. I'm really not, in a good headspace. I'm not sober. And so I'm trying to cross. I don't see a car. They hit me, spin me out into a ditch. And I get out of the car. I'm yelling at them because, of course, this isn't my fault. This is their fault. And as the police show up, they do a field sobriety test on me, determine that I'm intoxicated. My dad, I've called my dad.
They didn't even have to bring out the breathalyzer. It was just clear.
I think I declined it, but
okay. It was clear.
They did, walk and look at my finger and follow me and all that.
Yeah.
And so
your dad
I'd called my dad because I got into a wreck. He shows up, and when he gets there, they're loading me into the back of the police car. And so we didn't talk or say anything to each other. He just saw that happening. And so I get taken to jail. I spend the night in jail. They do, the blood sobriety or intoxication test, and clearly determined that I was intoxicated. And so I spent the night in jail. And at this point, Hunter and I, when we do talk after that, she says, it's rehab or divorce. And she had brought up rehab and wanted me to go to rehab before. And of course I was like, no way, I don't need that. I can control this. I can stop when I want. I can drink when I want. And so now after this, I said, okay, wherever it is, you name it, you pick it, I'll go to rehab. Let's do it. And I checked into a rehab center in Florida on November 22nd, 2017. My birthday and Thanksgiving Day, I was 27. Spent a month there, came out sober just in time for Christmas. I went with her and her family back to Arkansas for Christmas.
Oh, so once you got out of rehab, she was looking for reconciliation at that point.
Yeah, I think she was,
testing the waters.
She needed time and she wanted to test it out and, to say like, hey, you've got to not prove yourself, but you've got to put some time in and show that you are sober, you are working on this, you are getting better.
Yeah.
And so we go back to Arkansas, we spend time with her family, we come back to Dallas. I'm still living at my parents', but we are, seeing each other and spending time together, and I'm getting to see Mitchell and all those things. And of course, I think it should be moving faster. We should be looking for a place again. We should be moving back in together. But
and you're still sober.
I am sober.
Okay.
Yeah, for about 2 weeks after rehab, I was sober, and so
that's real. Yeah,
in my mind, that's like, hey, it's been 2 weeks. Let's go.
Right. We're good to go. Yeah,
finding a place. Like I'm good. So, rightfully so, she wanted to take more time. And about 2 weeks out of rehab, I relapsed. And she could tell immediately.
Wow.
And at this point, I felt like it's over. It's done. Rehab didn't work. Nothing's going to work. And so we're not seeing each other. We're not talking. I'm drinking. I had a new job at this point. I was working at a bank. And so I'm just back to even worse than I was before, of drinking morning and night. On a Friday before work, I had to run an errand. So I'm running that errand. I pass by a liquor store and I think, hey, let me get something. It's almost the weekend. I'll get a bottle and have it for the weekend. On the way to work, I think, oh, I can have a little bit now. That'll be good. I'll just feel good before the shift and start the weekend now. So I'm drinking in the car. I'm driving, even after already being in an accident and going to jail. Drinking and driving, going to work. And I threw up on myself in the car. So now I'm panicked and think, I've got to go home. I've got to change. I can't show up to work like this. Go home, change, put the alcohol in my closet, show up to work. I try to go in and start the shift at the bank. And not even, 2 minutes into being there, my boss calls me in and says, Alan, you're intoxicated. I, of course, try to deny it and fight it. But after talking for a few minutes, I break down, I lose it. And she called actually the recovery pastor in the city at one of the churches to come and meet me, talk to me. And my sister showed up to take me home. And so I leave work, I get home. I am really at the lowest point of my life. I feel like I've lost my job now. I've lost my family. I'm no good to anybody. And I text Hunter actually that night. I get home, I start drinking more because why not? I've already lost everything else.
It's already gone. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm drinking just in a really low place. And I text Hunter. I said, I think life will be better for you and Mitchell without me if I wasn't here. So she's now panicked. She's calling my parents. Where's Alan? Somebody get to Alan, talk to Alan, make sure he's okay. My sister calls the police. The police show up. Yeah. Man. Yeah, she does. And so the police show up. The recovery pastor shows up. And basically, I don't know this at the time, but I can either go to a detox center in a police car, or I can go voluntarily. And so the recovery pastor kind of talked me into volunteering. and my parents took me to a detox center in Dallas. And I joke with Hunter about this all the time. I would rather go to jail again than back to this detox center.
Serious.
It was terrifying. It was,
no.
It was the worst night of my life.
Prefer jail.
Yeah, it was.
I'm laughing and crying all at the same time right now. This is not good. Wow. Okay. Oh no. So
people
it was
were
bad
in beds
news.
with IVs hooked up. People are screaming, have lost their mind, and I'm just sitting in there in this room, wondering, how did I get here? How did life get to this point? And really, this was the moment for me of, if I'm in charge of my life, this is where I end up. If Alan makes the call, if he makes the decisions, if I do what I want to do, this is how good of a job I am at leading my own life. And sitting in that room that night was just a moment of, I don't care what my life looks like going forward, as long as God is in control. That may mean Hunter and I aren't married, and I don't get to be with my daughter all day, every day, and be in her life that way. It may mean that I don't work at a church again. It may mean, a lot of things, but I don't care. It's not about me anymore. I have to allow God to lead my life. And so, checked out of that detox center the next day. That was January 25th, 2018. And that was the last day I've had a drink. So a little over 3 years ago. And basically came out of the detox center and straight into recovery. I started going to Celebrate Recovery every week, which is basically the church or the Christian version of AA.
Yep.
I got a sponsor. I went through a 12-step program. I started seeing a counselor who specialized in addiction every single week. I couldn't drive. I had no money. My parents had my cash, my cards, and I didn't have access to anything like that. And got a job making minimum wage at a warehouse, metal decking warehouse, where I was basically pulling and cutting sheets of metal and just trying to get started again.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Now, how did you win your family back coming out of that?
My family, like Hunter and Mitchell, or my parents?
Yeah, Hunter and Mitchell. The parents. I might have to have your parents and Hunter on to give their version of. This is just so powerful. So, I mean, Hunter and Mitchell, though. How did you? Because you're still living with your parents, cutting metal, and you're saying, no matter what, if I get them back or not, this is over.
Yeah, I think there were definitely practical, physical things I could do and was doing to show Hunter, like going to recovery, getting a sponsor, being in a group, seeing a counselor.
Yep.
When I did spend money, I kept every receipt, and she could literally see and track everything that was spent and what I bought. But more than anything, it was just being okay with whatever she needed from me. Seeing me, not seeing me, seeing Mitchell, not seeing Mitchell, and me just trusting and deciding every day, whatever it looks like today, I'm just going to do it and go another day without alcohol, and just putting days, on top of each other of being sober and trusting that, whatever God wanted and whatever he had for my life was going to happen. And this is, if you want to get into this, we can. If not, then
yes, I want
no worries.
to.
But
I want to. Whatever it is you're about to say, I want to. Yeah.
For me, the most difficult thing in all of this, the two most difficult things were I didn't want people to know.
Yeah,
and so I didn't talk about it. I didn't share it with anybody. And finding Celebrate Recovery was a safe place to talk about it. And there's other people that are dealing with the same things, worse things, all things,
all the things,
and so that was a big thing for me. But then the other part for me was I don't really know, how do I give up alcohol? How do I give God alcohol? Yeah. That's the most basic church Christian thing to say is, well, give it to God. God's bigger than your problems. God's bigger than your addiction.
Right.
God's
He rose,
whatever.
you can rise. Yeah.
Exactly.
All
Give
the
it to him,
cliches. Yep.
and he'll take care of it. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that sounds awesome, but what do I do? How do I actually give God alcohol? And so I didn't know how. I still don't know if I really know how, but I do know how to give God other things in my life. And so for me, I've always tithed, I've always given 10% because that's just what you're supposed to do. That's what the Bible says. That's what God says. So you do it. But for me, there was a moment where I felt like, okay, if I really am committed to this thing, if God really is Lord of my life, he can't just be in control of alcohol or my relationships, but he's got to be in control of everything. And so I felt like I was supposed to start giving more than 10%, even though I'm making the least money I've ever made. I've got more bills and expenses. I've got court costs. I'm going through all of this stuff for probation and my DWI and everything like that. But I felt like I can't give God alcohol, but I can give God this. And so I'm going to trust him with more of my income and see what he does. And so, for me, that was my way of saying, whatever it is, God, I'm giving it all to you. And so I think not doing that and telling Hunter that, but just taking steps, every step I could, everything I felt like I was supposed to do to surrender my life. She began to see that, and not just the actions, but a change in me.
Right. She's getting receipts of you tithing more instead of liquor stores. Yeah. She's like, okay, this is looking better.
And I think I love Jesus, and I knew Jesus before recovery, but I didn't trust Jesus. I felt like if God doesn't do something I want him to do, or if this doesn't look the way I want it to, if my life isn't where I think it should be, I'm good enough to do it and figure it out and make it happen on my own. And so at this point, I've learned that I'm not good at that. And so I have to trust God, whatever it looks like. And I think you can tell and see a difference in the way someone lives and acts and talks if they do trust God. And I think Hunter saw that in me as, the way I live changed.
Yeah. You loved Jesus driving drunk.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You just hadn't learned. And I've never actually heard this before. And I'm going to steal this from you, because you saying, I didn't know how to give God alcohol because the church just says, give him the alcohol. But there were other areas, and I'm sure there were others besides just money as well. Like there's time, there's just so many things. And that's correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing you say, like, as you learned to surrender other areas of your life, alcohol, I'm not going to say it solved itself because we all know there's a power at play here, right?
Right.
But that's what started you on the journey of recovery.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can only do the things I know or give the things that I can. And again, alcohol for me was like, I can't give God alcohol. It's not like a physical thing I can do, but there are other physical things that God has asked us to do, to say, trust me, be faithful, and be obedient, and see if I come through. And so I said, okay, if those really are the things, these are things you've asked me to do, then I'm going to do them. And somehow God does what he does, and heals and works in the areas we don't know what to do with.
So good. So was there a moment of true, like, where Hunter came in and said, okay, like, I trust you. This is where I'm going to bring you back into my life? Or was it a slow
journey? Was progressive.
It was progressive.
It was definitely
so it was
progressive
into alcoholism, and then it was progressive into your reconciliation. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if you answer today, I don't know what she would say, but I know she trusts me, but I think there will always be some voice or part of her that's like, what if this happens again? What if he drinks again? Because
that's just real.
I've earned that,
Yeah, absolutely.
I've made those decisions. And so, but that, that's part of the trust and the faith in this relationship, in all relationships. And so it was progressive. And at some point she came to a place and felt like God was saying, hang on, wait on him,
Mm.
let me work. And, she had seen a lawyer on what it would look like before I went to the detox center. Before all of that, she had seen a lawyer to say, like, if I were to move forward with a divorce, what would this take? What would happen? And when she did that, she felt like God told her, give it till June.
Oh, wow.
And this was the beginning of the year 2018.
Mm.
So obviously she feels like God tells her that. And then I show up to work drunk and go to the detox center and all that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's kind of like, okay, God, what in the world is happening in June? Well, I'm working, going to rehab, or going to counseling, going to recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And then the day I'm going into court for my DWI, my sponsor actually calls me and he says, hey, I know you have court today. He's like, and also I know where you're working isn't really where you would want to be working. And my company's actually opening an office in Dallas. I think you could be a good fit.
Oh,
He's
wow.
like, we'll talk about it later, but I just wanted to put it on your radar. The day I'm going into court, which
Right.
is no coincidence, that's just
Of
God
course
saying,
not.
I've got you.
Oh.
I'm taking care of you. And so I go to court, get all that stuff started. And sure enough, I get that job. And so by June, I am working there, and we have found an apartment downtown Dallas, which is just crazy that we're living in, and we moved back in together. And, I think at that point, Hunter really felt like, okay, this is God. God's done this. God's opened these doors.
Yep.
Obviously God's working in Alan's life and healing him. And he's bringing our family back together.
Wow. This story is just, I feel like I'm watching a movie just listening to you talk. This is just incredible. And it just makes me love God so much all over again, just like the ways that he gets us where it's never how we want.
Of course not.
It's never how we want him to do it ever, but he does it.
No.
And so I have a couple more questions for you. Do you have a few more minutes?
Yeah, I've got all the time you need.
Okay, awesome. A couple more questions. One is the internal, like you talked about giving God like some of the more practical things, but the whole performance thing that it sounds like we both grew up with a bit. And I'm a bit cerebral as well, so I can get very in my head. And then I want to please people, and I don't want to, and I also love Jesus and I love God, but I also have, we have stuff in life.
Yeah.
How did that, I'm sure it's still all getting worked out of you, as it will be in all of us for the rest of our time on earth. But how did your recovery and coming to terms with some of those things coincide? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So I say I will forever be in recovery.
Okay,
recovery doesn't end. It doesn't stop. And
good. Yeah.
For me, recovery isn't just alcohol related, and I want to be constantly improving and getting better and growing in every area of my life. I don't want to just focus on an addiction and not drink. I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better business owner, friend, all those things. And so recovery has to cover every area of my life. And I have to constantly know and remember that it never ends. And for me, the performance side of things, where I want to be perceived as excellent, I want to look good, I want to have it all together, all those things. Obviously, I still want that, but where I've just trusted and allowed God to have control has been sharing my story and talking about it, and being okay and comfortable with what God says about me and how He sees me is way more important than how other people do, and really being okay with that. Which isn't easy. I will always fight that, but, I have to believe that and live that way and act that out, for it to be true in my life. And, I've just seen what happens when, you share what God's done in your life, or it frees people to be able to share what God's doing in their life, or to, even have a conversation about something that they wouldn't before, whatever their struggle, their addiction, their battle is.
What were the practicals that you already said you do meetings, you have sponsor. Is there anything, like, what other things helped you out?
I mean, the very practical things of, and this is hard for people in addiction or especially with loved ones that are going through something like this, is the hard boundaries of, you cannot drive a car. I didn't drive a car for 90 days. I didn't have keys. I didn't have access to anything like that. I mean,
You
setting
gave
as
up a lot
many
of control.
boundaries, and barriers in place of, like, I would have to go through 10 different walls if I was going to drink. And it's not fun for anybody to do that. It's not enjoyable for my parents to have to take me everywhere and buy my groceries and, everything that goes with that, taking me to and from work. But I think, those are just very practical, like basic boundaries that have to be set up, because it does take control. We all are fighting bondage to something. And if we don't put up barriers to prevent us from getting there, we will go there every time.
We will. Okay. Yep. Yeah. So do you still have barriers?
Absolutely. I mean, I still talk to my sponsor and meet with my sponsor. I still go to meetings. I still pick up my, yearly recovery chip and celebration chip. Hunter and I have conversations weekly about it. And, I think just, again, like having conversations like this to say, this is what God's done in my life and where I'm at, are healthy boundaries and barriers to that. And we're not at this place yet, but for Mitchell, I want her to know and hear and be a part of all of this, because I don't want her to feel like she can't tell me where she's struggling and what's going on in her life. And I don't want, I don't want to feel like we have to be something that we're not and put on this facade that we have it together, because the greatest, picture for her of who her dad is and who Jesus is what he's done in our life. And, every year I want to celebrate my sobriety birthday, and I want her to know like what daddy's gone through, and
so awesome.
Just what God's done, that she even, has a dad here and has a family and has a home.
Oh, that's so good. I hadn't even thought about that aspect of it, which is now the story that Mitchell's going to hear growing up, and the example she's seen of just true, authentic, like real life dad and mom. And this was not pretty at times.
Yeah. And I want to be good at her knowing, like, daddy makes mistakes, daddy messes up, and that's okay.
Yes.
But you have a dad that doesn't, and he's your dad's dad, and he's brought him to where he is today, and he's your dad too. And
so awesome.
When daddy makes mistakes, where daddy fails you, Jesus won't.
Yeah. It's so good. So good. I don't cry easily, Alan. And you've gotten me a couple of times. You've gotten me a couple of times this morning.
I do. And I knew it just going into this. Maybe it's because Easter and everything that we've come through. But like, God's just been so good. And so anytime I talk about this or remember this, it's I don't ever want to be removed from what God's done in my life and where he's brought me.
For anyone struggling with alcohol addiction, what would you want to tell them that are in the throes of, like, you passed out in the media room, you getting booked into jail? What would you, as a recovering, not recovered, I love that you said that, as a constantly recovering alcoholic, what would you say?
I would say that it's okay, that you're not the only one, and that it's okay that you can't control it. It's okay that you aren't good enough. It's okay that, it's okay that you've lost it, because we can't do it. We can't do it on our own.
So good.
And then I would say, talk to somebody. I would say, talk to somebody.
Okay.
Go to Celebrate Recovery, get in a group, talk about it as much as you can, because, sin grows in the darkness, and it's only going to get worse.
That's good. And last question for you. What would you tell somebody who loves someone struggling with alcoholism? And how can they best support and help? We kind of touched on this already because Hunter has been so awesome. But
yeah, I would say call my wife.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, she's the post.
I would say,
yeah,
in the same way that I had to say, whatever my life looks like, I've got to be healthy. Hunter had to do the same thing, and she had to come to a place and be okay with. My first concern is for my health and my security and my child's, and so making the decisions that may be difficult, but are best for you, your health, your sanity, your security. Making those decisions and trusting God with that. And then Hunter went to counseling as well. I mean, we still go to counseling.
Great. Yeah.
We love counseling. We're huge counseling advocates.
Same.
But Hunter, I wish I would have gone to counseling when I was in high school. But Hunter saw counseling not for how do I fix my husband? How do I get rid of this addiction? How do I heal him? She saw counseling for what is in me that shouldn't be? What do I need to change, to grow in, to improve on in my life, to whether I'm with Alan or not, to have a healthy, successful life and future.
Great.
And so, you're, as much as you want to heal and help and fix that person that you love, you can't.
Yep.
And you can work on, improve, and help who you are. And whatever happens with that other person, you've got a lot of life ahead of you. God's got a lot that he wants to do in you and through you. And I think your job is to become the best person that you can.
My husband was born into church. I've been pastoring, I think probably now for like 13 years, but I am over people pretending. I hate it. It just appalls me because if somebody, or I'll go out to lunch with somebody and everything's perfect in their marriage and everything's perfect in their life and everything's perfect. And I'm like, someone's lying here. This is why I started the podcast. This is why I started the whole thing, is because like good people drive drunk. People who love Jesus cheat. People who love Jesus have pornography addictions. This is real life. And if we as the church can't address it and talk about it and tell our just ugly stuff, we're not helping anybody.
You're absolutely
We're
right.
just making people feel worse. But I just have all the respect in the world for you, for what you've overcome, for what you've been through, for what you're still recovering from, and for telling the story. Because so many people don't want to tell the stories, and I'm already in love with your wife. Just hearing the stories, she just sounds like one cool chick.
She is.
But all the love and honor to her as well. And I didn't realize in the beginning when you talked about your wedding venue or your wedding business, I didn't realize the entire story and how you said like it's a pretty cool full circle moment. And now I see it.
Yeah, it's God's restored our marriage. And, as far as the business side of things for us, I think what we talk about and what we are believing for is, not just planning weddings, but helping prepare marriages. And
great,
the amount of touch, the amount of people we touch, conversations we have for every wedding that we do is an opportunity, for God to use us to help people in their marriage. And I think as the marriage goes, as the family goes, so does everything else. And so just the responsibility we have to help marriages and couples, is great, we feel like.
Yeah. And I have no doubt you have done that today by talking to me and everyone listening. Like, there is always hope. Thank you. All the love in the world to your girls. And we've got a lot of young people here, probably will be getting married in the next decade. So we'll send them all towards y'all.
Yes, please do.
And congratulations.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on. And congratulations on 3+ years of sobriety. By God, am I right?
Amen.
Amen. Amen.